Good evening. I'm going to go ahead on and call the Administration Finance Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll for the meeting?
Pugh,
Here.
McBride, here. Livingston,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Walker. We have a quorum.
That brings item 20 on the agenda, the approval of minutes.
Second.
Moving proper second. Any?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, yes. Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker. Motion approved.
Next item is the election of the chair. You know, the only reason I'm here not to be the chair of this committee, but being the senior member of council of the committee, it's my responsibility to take care of this first committee meeting. So now I'm opening the floor for the election of chair.
Councilmember Livingston, I'm so sorry, but we haven't adopted the agenda yet. No. We did the minutes, but not the agenda.
Entertain a motion to reference the agenda.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's moving properly second. Any discussion? Any change, deletions? There being none, can you call the roll for the adoption of the agenda? Thank you.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Weaver,
Yes.
Walker. Motion approved.
And on the agenda is the election of the chair. Is there a motion for election of the chair?
Mr. Chair, I move to elect Paul Livingston as chair.
I want to respectfully decline this. With my busy schedule, I want to respectfully
understand.
decline it. But thank you so very much for the nomination.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to nominate the Honorable Overture Walker.
I'll second it. All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll for the motion?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Definitely yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker. Motion approved.
Mr. Walker did inform me that he would be willing to serve if elected. I'll continue.
Perfect timing.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair, we just concluded the election of the chair. So congratulations. So we're on item 5 on the agenda. Do you care to pick up there, or would you like me to continue for the meeting? At item 5, items for action.
Item 5, all right. Thank my colleagues for the vote of confidence. Item 5A, Community Planning and Development, Department of Public Works, Professional Services, Town of Blythewood, Intergovernmental Agreement. Mr. Brown, you or your staff have anything to add on that item?
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, we do have staff that can speak more specifically to questions. We do recommend approval of this item. This is basically a continuation in some respects of an agreement that we've had with the town of Blythewood to provide said services. And so the contract or the agreement that we had with them expired during that time. As you all are well aware, we've had some major changes out there. So we want to make sure that all that was able to be worked through. And now we're back before you with this current version of the agreement. The town of Blythewood is represented. This is a mutual beneficial agreement between us and the town of Blythewood. We recommend approval. The details are contained. And because this is more of a continuation with some changes, We do have staff that can answer questions, but that would be the brief that I provide you with, Mr. Chair, members of council, unless there are specific questions you would like to ask.
Have the administrator from the town of Blythewood with us this evening. So good to see you. Yes, thank you, sir. All right. Any questions from the body regarding this item? You recognize Mr. Livingston?
Brown, are there any substantial changes from the previous agreement, or we just kind of renewing pretty much what we did before?
Minor changes in the sense that the county, through this process, has a delegated review, and in general that applies here. There are some certain carve-outs for the town of Blythewood, but overall, it's generally similar to what was in place before.
So just for our sake, just want to say I think it's great that we worked through these agreements with our municipalities, whether as far as acres or urban and all the rest of them. So we have some consistency within the county.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions from the body on this item? There being none, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, entertain a motion.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Move to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 5B, Department of Public Works, Engineering Division, Summit Ridge Sidewalk Construction. Mr. Brown, anything from you or your staff regarding this item?
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, this is a project that is funded through a couple of entities. If you see in your packet on page 24, there's an amount that is being funded by the County Transportation Committee, or we commonly refer to as the CTC, in addition to our road and drainage function of Public Works. It is consistent with a recommendation for a construction of a sidewalk project. The amounts are listed there, and we do have staff here to again, provide specific details, but this is an award for the Summit Ridge Drive sidewalk, and the provider would be Quail Construction, listed there in the packet. The bid process was followed. We did provide that in the packet, and the lowest responsive bidder was Quail Construction, who is also a registered SLBE and a minority-owned business here in Richland County.
Motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Brown, I have a question, and maybe this is one for Director Maloney. But I guess I'm wondering, will there be any sort of disruption to traffic during the construction period? And I'm asking that question because I remember when Summit Ridge was resurfaced, if I'm not mistaken, was that last month, Director Maloney? Summit Ridge was resurfaced, or maybe back in December. I know I received several calls and emails from constituents. I believe Ms. Mackey may have also received calls and emails from constituents as well about just that. And it wasn't just Summit Ridge, it was also Summit Parkway, but just the resurfacing and about the disruption to traffic and congestion. So do we have any ideas whether or not this project will create a similar challenge for residents?
County Engineer Fuller, would you mind addressing the body to that question, please?
You recognize Ms. Fuller.
Thank you, sir. As far as traffic delays go, since this is a sidewalk project, the majority of the work will be off the road. However, when they bring in a concrete truck to do the pours, that will be a lane closure. So there will be lane closures, not as frequent or not as long a lane closure as you saw with the resurfacing. So they probably had lane closures for a half a mile, where when they're doing a sidewalk, this is a very small section of sidewalk, so the closures will be much smaller.
Have any plans, I guess, to get the word out, to residents well in advance? Because what I discovered, and I think Ms. Mackey may have discovered this as well, is the only thing worse than paving the road. I'm sorry, not paving the road, sometimes it's paving the road. And so I just want to make sure we don't have a repeat, at least residents are informed of what's coming.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can get that information out. We'll work with the communications team to make sure that we update that. So after we conclude this meeting, in a briefing that I have with them, we'll make sure that's part of what we do.
By the way, Mr. Brown, I'm certainly excited that this is happening. I believe this is not only District 8, but I believe, Ms. Mackey, you may have a stretch of Summit Ridge as well. So this is certainly great for the residents. But again, just want to make sure that there is as little disruption as possible. You recognize?
Thank you, and I definitely agree with. The only other thing I would just suggest is previously, I believe, when the contractor did work out there, comments that we received is that if they do work, could they try to avoid peak hours there with the lane closure, just because there's so many schools and folks trying to get off of work, the buses, that it really impacted kids getting to school on time in that small area. So I think if we could even just peak out, that would help, especially over there.
Okay, understood. Yeah, we can definitely talk to the contractor about doing that. And we did do a community meeting. It may have been six months ago now. And we did hand out some flyers, and we'll do that again prior to construction starting to give them specific dates once we confirm them.
Something I forgot, we have a community town hall coming up tomorrow evening, so perhaps Director Maloney, when it's your turn, for your presentation, you can just put the word out to many of the constituents who will be there, many whom I assume will be Summit residents. So, all right, thank you, Ms. Fuller.
Thank you.
Any additional, you recognize Ms. McBride?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I don't know whether Mr. Brown can answer this question or not. And I remember this process coming through a year ago. But with sidewalks, we develop a priority listing. And is this a part of that priority listing, or is this something else that's different with the selection of this particular location?
Going to ask Director Maloney to try
Okay.
to address that, please.
Recognize Director Maloney.
Helping out with the penny has helped me see the priority lists on sidewalks. And so in the penny, we do have a organized list of sidewalks by, 1 through, 30 as far as their priority. And we work down that list in the penny. As far as public works, they're looking at where there's still gaps connecting neighborhoods. And this was one of those that, just with a few blocks of sidewalk, they can connect Summit, with Lower Summit Ridge and to Summit Parkway to provide access all the way to, schools on Hardscrabble. So no, this wasn't on that list.
Okay, so this did not come from a priority list.
Right.
This was something that came about through staff review of issues.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was not a result of funding already being provided by an external agency. This was something that assist funding. Where did you say, Mr. Brown, is fund?
The CTC, yes, ma'am.
So we went to the CTC with the request for this particular funding. Sometimes the CTC comes to us. So I just needed clarification that we go to the CTC.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They just had a meeting today, and so whenever we have something, we do try to get it into their funding priorities. And what we do with sidewalks, with Public Works, though, is include them in the, the annual plan that comes before around the January timeframe. So we'll have a new list for you then.
Mr. Maloney, you have done a really great job in trying to prioritize the sidewalks and in trying to ensure geographical equity with sidewalks. So I look forward to continuing to work with you to ensure that District 3 and others are.
Maloney, that is very high praise coming from my auntie. All right, any additional discussion or questions? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 5C, County Utilities. This is the Quail Creek Sewer Extension. Mr. Brown, anything from you or your staff on this item?
Again, very briefly, Mr. Chair, we do recommend approval for the awarding of this particular contract to Williams Infrastructure LLC. This project's funding is in the Southeast Sewer and Water Project funding allocation. And this particular project is actually the removal of a of a pump and replacing with a 10-inch gravity sewer line. As many of you may remember, that is a more cost-efficient way to have sewer flows through gravity rather than trying to pump it against the natural flow. So that's what this is. So this will improve our efficiency with our structure, and so we do recommend approval for this particular item.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A second.
Second.
Properly second. Discussion?
I'd just like to say, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say, Ms. Davis, it's just music to my ears here, this 18.7 per year in savings. That's great. Can we see if we can find some other gravity lines out there that we could possibly do? I say we try to get them across the county if we can, so that's it, Mr. Chairman.
The laws of gravity, right? All right, any additional questions or comments? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 5D, Community Planning and Development, Conservation Division. This is the Mill Creek Bridge replacement. Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of council. This particular item may sound familiar because it is. You actually approved this item before, but what happened is there were some engineering estimates that did not include certain considerations on the property in order to get the materials to the site, and then additionally there was COVID related, and that matters because of the products that you're using. And as a result of that, the cost that was actually approved and considered at that time substantially changed. So what you see reflected is in the packet is the current cost and then the additional request that is needed to fulfill that cost. So we do have conservation represented here, but what the ask is that you request to approve the remove and replace the Mill Creek Bridge for the new amount with the lowest responsible bidder, which is going to be $1,145,149, which again is over and above what was previously approved. But again, that was because of the engineering estimates that did not include getting the materials to the site and what was needed to get there, and then again the inflation that occurred during a period of time between then and what we see related to these products after COVID. So the funding is available in conservation's items, and so they're requesting approval of this item, and we support that request.
In a motion?
Second.
Move to properly second. Any discussion? Question, Mr. Brown. So this, we're looking at replacing the bridge, right? The Mill Creek Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Is this bridge, is it publicly owned or is it privately owned? I just want to make sure that didn't come across in the materials, so.
Right. No, these are in conservation, so this is going to be public. It's not a separate private entity that we're doing that. This is land that is under conservation's care, and so the bridge will be replaced in that land.
Got that piece about the land. I was just wondering about the bridge. Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense. Any additional questions? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, next item, item 6. I'm starving for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. It's non-debatable. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Weaver,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are adjourned.